Hello and welcome to The Chosen Few, the one and only place for you. My name is Isabelle Santine, and today I am finally unveiling the first ever version of the SSRG Scalable Raster Graphics for the Web project. So, first things first, let's get some introductions out of the way. Hi, my name is Isabelle, as I've already said. Currently, I am working towards my bachelor's degree in computer science at Davenport University. In my free time, you'll find me contributing code to open source projects and also developing software for mobile, web, and IoT environments. Currently, my big interest is in researching novel digital compression and processing techniques with applications in visual media. So what brings us here today for this presentation is something called the digital divide. It's something that many of you might be familiar with, but in case you aren't, let me give you the lowdown. Essentially, all across the globe, there's a huge epidemic in slow internet connection. You might think that's not a big deal, is it? But it really is, because it becomes a matter of equity and inequality, actually, where countries that have the lowest internet access speeds actually lag behind commercially and otherwise. Now, this chart that I'm showing here is in fact from the ITU's own report on this very phenomena. As you can see, the highest income countries have the highest bandwidth by far. Which brings me to SSRG, the Scalable Streamable Raster Graphics format for the web. It's a working solution for bandwidth disparities across the web now. And you might be wondering how that works. Well, essentially, it's a multi-resolution, perceptually lossless image format that basically, like progressive JPEG and interlaced PNG, as well as lossy WebP formats, can actually progressively load more and more detail into the image as it gets downloaded. So the full image displays right away, but with less detail than normal, and then it gradually fills in as time passes on, which results in a really good experience for low bandwidth users who might want to view pages including high resolution content, but don't necessarily have the time or even available bandwidth to download those images fully at full resolution. I like to call this strategy display now, refine later. Let's look at some pros and cons. For interlaced PNG, some pros are that it's lossless with great compression, and it supports the vast majority of pixel formats one would want to use, including 8-bit luminance only, 8-bit RGB, 8-bit RGBA, and so on. Cons, it takes forever to get a decent image with a low bandwidth connection, and it looks very unappealing at first. I don't know if you've ever seen an interlaced PNG load, but does not look great. Taking a look at progressive JPEGs, some pros are superior compression to PNG with minimal but noticeable loss, and the first display is of reasonable quality. Some cons are that it's of course always lossy, and it has no alpha channel, which can be a deal breaker depending on what you want to have in your image. As a point of comparison, we're looking at lossless WebP, because although its compression is superior to PNG, and therefore it typically downloads faster than PNG, it has no progressive display mode at all, which is like, what? And why care? Well, consider the following. Images are found on all modern web pages these days. And image downloads are bigger than ever, with 4K resolutions now being commonplace. Both of these things, combined with the fact that highest possible image quality is imperative to marketing and art situations, it's pretty key that we have a format that delivers perceptually lossless image quality at a flexible resolution depending on what a client is capable of downloading. Which is why I love SSRG, my new image format. Now let's take a look at what you are getting into by adopting SSRG. Per page load, you're looking at adding approximately 100 lines of unminified vanilla JavaScript. No polyfills, no extra libraries, just SSRG. And you also will be needing a little bit of extra modifications to your server configuration, but nothing too crazy. Surge files are typically less than 30% larger than their PNG counterparts, and that combined with their multi-resolution approach makes them flexible and accessible for all kinds of users of your websites. And as a plus, the decoder and format specification are both entirely non-standard and open source, which makes them ripe for future innovation. But there are some caveats and things to keep in mind. Compression ratios vary depending on image complexity. Duh comes to mind, but I figured I should put it out there. And the only supported pixel format for now is 8-bit per component RGB plus 7-bit alpha, which for some situations might be do or die on that alpha channel restriction, but in many cases it's not going to matter at all. And of course, the encoding algorithm is hungry in terms of memory and also kind of slow, because it only uses one processor for now. As much as I would have liked to include this as a feature for this first release of the format, HDR10 features remain unsupported for now, but will be added in the future. And finally, this might be a deal breaker for some, but the first-party encoder will remain proprietary. However, I do not plan on patenting any of the encoder-specific algorithms or technologies, which means it's open for competition to enter the market and perhaps even supersede my own product, which I'm totally okay with. And finally, let's look at Surge's adoption plan. The initial version has already been released on GitHub and can be installed and used on any website immediately. And actually, just recently, I published a paper on the very specification of this format as an internet draft. So you can go check that out with the link in the description. I'll also link all the sources that I've used for this presentation down below. So be sure to check all those out. Soon, I hope to implement the Surge format into the WebKit rendering engine, which will hopefully speed up the adoption process for the format by adding native support to browsers for it. Hopefully sometime in the future, Surge eventually becomes an RFC, a request for comment, and actually makes its way to the governing standards bodies of the internet. And maybe in the future it becomes mainstream? I don't know. It's really up in the air, and I want to see what happens, and I want to know what all your guys' thoughts on this format is. Would you use it for your website if you run a website at all? Or would you be excited to see it make its way to websites that you use regularly? Let me know in the comments. But yeah, thank you very much. I've been Isabelle Santine. You can reach me at info@chosenfewsoftware.com via email. And you can also find me on the web at chosenfew.software. Thank you. Bye-bye.